Well, that's a first for me, Muz. An estuary perch in Victoria.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
do that again
a
then.
thrill. Oh, yeah, it's only a little guy. They grow pretty big in this river, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They grow 60 odd centimetres.
Wow, that's a massive perch. Hooked squarely through the bottom jaw. Very closely related to the Australian bass, but slightly different head shape. If I take the pressure off its head there, longer mouth, slightly dished here, and a lot of more telescopic mouth. Essentially an insect feeder. Also love crustaceans, prawns and things like that. Okay, off you go. The perch like these cliff sections.
Yeah. They like anywhere where they've got a bit of cover. You quite often get a lot of them around the weed beds, and this river system, depending on the season, some seasons got lots of weed in it, big weed beds with the channels, and the perch swim in the channels and that, but they do tend to like the cliffy areas where there's the rocks for them to hide behind, so they feel safe somewhere for cover.
Now, where's Mr. Bream?
You're using a black fly today, Pete?
Yeah, mate, that's the one I've been getting the bites on.
Yeah, I've just had a chartreuse one on. I've just changed to red, because what we find here in this river, and I think it stands for bream and perch pretty much all everywhere, is that they'll bite on a particular colour. On any given day, there'll be one colour that they are really aggressive towards, and if you're using that coloured fly, you'll get hits after hit after hit, and no one else will get hits until they change to that colour. So it pays, if you're not getting a lot of action, just to go through a colour selection of flies, and yeah, just to find out what they're looking for on that particular day.
Bam. Well, they're getting a little bit bigger, Muz. That's a slightly better fish. Slightly better. I know you can do a heck of a lot bigger than that here. And fat too. Look at the belly on it. Been feeding hard, eh?
Into another little perch here. I was using the chartreuse fly and it was doing no good, and I'll change to the red fly, and we've got ourselves a little perch. Again, not a very big fish, but it's good. This is a representation of the health of the system, that there's a lot of little fish like this in here, which is good for the future. If you're handling perch and you haven't handled them before, just be careful. They are very spiny down here. That's really sharp there, and they've got cutters on the gills here, really sharp. They will draw blood quite easily. But yeah, lovely little fish, and he'd be about 2 years old. There he goes.
This upright dorsal fin is very important for handling fish if you want to release them. As long as the fin, the dorsal, is remaining upright, the fish is still in good nick. Once that dorsal starts to lay down, the fish is starting to get pretty stressed. And I always like to get them back in before the dorsal starts to lay down. Away you go. That's a fat little fish, Muz. Well, your pick was right. This drift, it's your favourite drift, is producing fish. Favourite drift, one of your flies, the retrieve you showed me. God, what an instructor.
And my boat.
And your boat, yeah. Your favourite bit of river. Worst thing you can do with these fish when you get a hit is lift the rod to set the hook, what we call a trout strike, because they will come back and keep hitting it. You've just got to keep retrieving. The strip strike, just keep retrieving. Once you lift the rod, you've whipped the fly out of the strike zone, away from the fish. In this murky water, they probably won't find it again. And you will get tap, 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 tap as the bream follow it. Just keep stripping. Very hard to not lift that rod though.
Lift him up. Gone back to the chartreuse fly with the pink tail. Again, only a tiny little fish, but still good fun. All fish are good. There's never a bad fish. There we go, we'll just put him back. goes. Let him grow on, and 10 years time hopefully he'll come back and visit us again.
A couple of bumps through here too, mate.
Yeah, they do school. If you get one, you'll quite often get another couple straight away.
Slightly better. There we go. They're getting bigger, Muz, slowly, fish by fish.
Yes, it does take a long time for them to grow bigger.
All right, back you go.
The chartreuse is a good coloured fly for this river. Well, probably a standard go-to fly here would be a black and chartreuse Merri minnow, and I'll put one on in a minute. I've still got the fly on that we had when we left the Hopkins.
Okay, let's go a little deeper. Very obvious in the water, that bright chartreuse, isn't it? In this dark water, really stands out.
Anywhere that tanniny coloured water, chartreuse seems to work really well.
Right. I mean, sometimes having a fly that stands out can be a disadvantage in that it spooks the fish. They can have so many different moods, and then sometimes that really bright stand-out fly is exactly what you need.
Yeah, it's all they're interested in.
Yeah. This particular fly has been very effective for me on the black bream in Tasmania. The chartreuse, that chartreuse pattern of yours.
Yeah, we've got cows along the riverbank, and we've got a mulloway bait. There we go, little Australian salmon come up in the rivers. And up here you'll get them mixed in with redfin. You'll also catch redfin up here, as well as a bream and perch. And mullet, big mullet.
Do you fish the shady bank and the sunny bank at all, Muz? Do you have a preference there?
Probably preference the shade during the day, just that lower light. But, you know, we catch them out in the sunshine too. You know, if you're not getting them in the shade, just try the sunshine.
Yeah.
You know, keep moving. The thing with bream fishing has always been, if you're not catching them, move.
Yeah.
And that's why I like this drift fishing with the drogue. Put the drogue out in the water to slow your drift down. You're constantly moving. The fish will be held up in one little area, you drift across them, you catch a heap there, you can go back and drift across it again, or you can just keep drifting and come across another patch of them. We just need the directions to the patches today.
Get that there's mud. Nice, Bream. That's getting a little better. That's getting a little better. A little bigger. Again, a very fat fish. Look at the gut on that. It's like a football, Muz.
Yep. They're well looked after. He's a bit lighter than the last one.
Beautiful colouring. And that's that little, that jig head that I've converted into a fly.
Oh, he's a little male.
Is he? Oh yes, I see what you mean. And probably ready to spawn too. Is this spawning time?
Yeah, it's getting close. Yeah, the time varies a little bit depending on the season.
Right. On the amount of fresh water.
Yeah, and the conditions.
Right.
But they don't spawn every year.
Yeah.
They'll miss years.
I'd like to get some photos of that. You know, they're such a. Oh, the fly came out. such an enormously popular and important species, and that's a very handsome fish with that colour on it.
They're a real, like what they call a bread and butter fish.
Yeah.
Without sort of degrading the fish at all, the term bread and butter comes from they're available to just about anybody.
Yeah.
You know, most Australians live within an hour or so of an estuary, and this would be one of the most popular estuary fishes out there. They're really good. They take a long time to grow, so we should be looking after them. But in Victoria at the moment there's a bag limit of 10, but there is a push by anglers, not by the government, but by anglers to have that reduced to 5. We'd like 2, but we'll go for 5 first and see how we go from there. You know, it's interesting that the participants of the sport are actually asking for more restrictions.
Yes.
Not the government. It's
must
unique.
be about the only sport on earth.
Yeah, it is. And they grow fairly quickly for the first couple of years, and then after that they slow right down. A fish of this size might be 18 years old. Fish of 40 odd centimetres, you'll be looking at 25, 30 years old. Obviously there's variations. The local fish care, Southwest Fish Care down here, has produced a number of rulers that have got approximate ages and weights for size on all the data collected. We've tagged a lot of bream in this system and in the Hopkins system, and the data that's coming back we're getting to know a little bit more about them, about their habits, growth rates, all that. Years ago they used to age them by their scales, and we found that it was fairly inaccurate, so they're aged with the onolith, the ear bone, and it's got the growth rings in it like the trunk of a tree. So they slice that open or slice that in half and count the rings. And yeah, we're finding some of these fish are 35 and 40 years old. So that's why we really have to do all we can to protect them. Because once they're gone forever.
Okay, there he goes. So that's a little male muzz. Beautiful. Yep. All right, off we go. Look at that. There you go. Excellent. Well done, Muz.
No worries.
Thank you for bringing here, mate. This is a pretty special bit of water.
It's different to a lot of stream waters.
It's not what you'd expect. Look at the tea trees and the rushes.
Nice fish. I bet not tell you, I was on a trout fly.
You switched to a fast sinking line, didn't you?
Yep.
And got an immediate result.
And just push those two buttons in.
That's a nice fish. Won't go.
Just,
It'll be all right. It'll be okay.
it'll.
Oh,
There he's gone. He's off.
good release.
Yep, and that is a Merai minnow,
Okay.
which is a trout fly.
Mm-hmm.
And the hook slightly bent.
He bent it, didn't he? Crushed it.
That's a trout fly.
Mm-hmm.
The USD minnow I was using before was fashioned from this fly.
Yeah.
And what happened, I started using this fly in the Hopkins, catching bream and perch on it, so I updated it to a saltwater version. But I had this one in, and just tried him, and that was the first cast with a fast sinking line, and
Yeah.
instant result. Yeah, Pete, there's one coming down. There's about 15 feet down to your right.
Is it coming through that channel or is it under the weed?
No, it's under the weed. He's out of sight at the moment. Here he comes. No, he swam straight past it. He didn't see it. You might have to shorten the dropper up a little bit.
But you think the fly's too deep, the nymph is too deep?
Yeah, I think so. He didn't acknowledge it at all. You're better off sort of being on his level or above him a little bit.
Alright, okay.
There's a cruiser outside the weeds, he's just risen.
How far outside the weed bed?
Oh, 15 feet beyond it.
Roger.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, he's coming over.
Oh, I saw the take.
Yeah, you got him, yep.
Sorry, mouth.
Broken.
Right, he's free. Clear. Gotta get him in over that weed.
You still on?
Yeah. Oh, I gotta get it over those weed beds. There it comes. Get its head up. Over the weed. Oh, he's a big fish. Just bring the net, Muz. Just bring the net. I've got him in. Oh, get your hand up there, Muz. That is slippery. Oh, what a fish.
Look at that. Oh,
That is
don't you love that when it just comes together?
That is fantastic. That's the biggest brown certainly that I've ever caught in Victoria.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
So,
public
and
water.
let me tell you, it's the biggest brown on mainland Australia. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a nice fish.
Let me just lift it out of the net. What's your call on it?
Oh, it's a brown trout.
Yeah. And fat.
Yeah,
Beautifully conditioned.
good 5
There's that nymph suspended under a dry that you suggested I use. Sage rods and reels and Reddington tackle have the world of fly fishing covered, from the very best rods money can buy to start-up kits for beginners. Their websites are a great source of information, and to make the most of their very generous warranties, make sure you buy your Sage and Reddington tackle from an authorised dealer.
What we're going to tie here is a BMS Hammerhead. It's one of the Bream and estuary flies we use down here. It's been developed from the BMS, which was trout fly. We used the BMS in the estuaries and it was quite successful, so we adapted it to a saltwater version. We're using a mustard saltwater fly hook. It's an S71 SS, size 4, and there we start the fly by putting a base of shred. The base of shred's fairly important. It acts as a foundation for the fly. We tie some eyes on. For this fly I'm going to use a black and chartreuse Real Eye Plus. You can use normal dazzle eyes or any of the eyeballs, whatever, but we'll just use this one for here. What we do, we tie them on top of the hook, just behind the eye, making sure he's strapped down nice and tight. Strap him down with figure of 8 wraps, then do what I call saddle wraps. You go over the eye, under the hook, over the eye, under the hook. Do that half a dozen times, then go under the eyes and over the hook, wrap around the base. That pulls all the thread wraps in really nice and tight. So that's got our eyes on. The tail for this fly is going to be pink. It's BMS blend, is the material that was developed by myself and Tywell a few years ago for the BMS range of flies. Basically we get the material, squish it into a little ball, just leave a little bit sticking out the end, just catch that with the thread, then pull our fingers away and that leaves the tail. It's probably the easiest way of putting the tail on. Now for the ribbing material, we're just using a dark corded material. This has got a little bit of flash of reds and blues in it. Just snip that off so it's nice and even. Tie it in right behind the eyes, wind it down the hook all the way, Nice tight wraps in there. Then we're going to dub this material BMS blend on again. This one's a chartreuse. Again, just wind it into a little, push it into a little ball, tease a little piece out, put it on the thread and just roll your fingers on it. Roll your fingers. Only put little bits on at a time and keep adding to it. If you try and put too much on, it won't stick. But we don't want it to stick to the thread too well. Basically the thread's only got to guide it along the hook as we go. So we've got about that much on, we'll see how we go there. Just wind him down the hook as we go. Get up behind the eyes, just add a little bit more. Make sure we've got a fair bit in behind the eye. The fly looks little bit hollow if there's not a build-up of material just behind the eye, because what we're actually going to do with this fly is rough it up with Velcro when it's finished. I've got heaps in behind the eye there. Take the thread forward. Now using the rotary function on the vise, we'll wind the ribbing material on. Just wind our nice even wraps, round the hook once and take it back, bind the thread over it so it's down really nice and tight. Snip the material, the rib, then just whip finish him. Put 2 whip finishes on. The reason we put 2 on, when we rough the fly with Velcro, if we've only got 1 whip finish, the Velcro can pull the knot undone. So if we put 2, it just acts as a safety mechanism. Take our Velcro now, it's just the hook and loop stuff. Using the hook side, just rub it on the fly, pulling all that dubbing material out. So basically we're trying to create a halo around a dark centre line, and that's the fly finished. A little bit of varnish on the head and that's ready to go and catch a bream with.